Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Timber's Den. My name is Whitney, and we just finished reading Wyoming Giant by John S. McCord. I'm going to dedicate this video to my brother-in-law. I just learned Monday that he passed away. So this video, I'm probably not going to be, I'm already not articulate in the best of times, but probably going to be a little bit more rambly and lose my train of thought and such. I've already tried to make this video multiple times. I just kind of lost track. Um, but I'm going to try to muddle through it and just get this video out there. But I definitely want to dedicate it to him. So I'm not sure if he enjoyed westerns or anything like that, but I know like he was a country music fan. So but yeah, this was a good, solid book. Not like the greatest book in the world, but definitely a solid read and something that was short, fast paced, and enjoyable for sure. So I'm gonna get into my thoughts on in just a second. On this book in just a second, but before I do, just want to kind of give you an update. I'm not really sure what these my regular series are going to look like going forward. I'm not going to be doing my book of the month this month at all. I've decided to just kind of scrap that. I was supposed to start that on Monday, but I'm just gonna scrap that. We're gonna do Lady Boss by Jackie Collins as book of the month for January. I will put an updated breakdown down in the description below, but there's too much going on, and I might need to go up to Colorado to be with my sister, so I'm not gonna do that at all. My regular series, my weekly reads, and my throwback Thursdays probably won't be very regular, if at all, and I'm definitely not gonna pick up my series Saturday again until probably the new year. So the videos are gonna be kind of all over the place, if at all. But probably come the new year, I'll get back into a regular schedule like I have been doing. I still plan on participating in the Festive Readathon by Steph Loves. I already have my books for that, so I'm still planning on participating in that, just kind of for my own mental health and sanity. Um, I still want to do that. And I actually finished Dead Man Docking, which is my D author for my ABC author challenge. So one of the books is my e author, which is for the readathon, and then I do kind of jump ahead, um, over F through H and jump to I for the readathon as well. But that will kind of help with my ABC author challenge and get more of those read. And like I said, it's more just kind of self care for myself. Uh, and staying kind of in the spirit of the holiday, but definitely gonna still do that. Not sure when I'll be able to put that video out though. um but I will do that. I'll leave Steph Love's channel linked in the description below. And I also had my husband do a homemade advent calendar. We went to the thrift store and he got 25 books. I know most advent calendars are either 12 or 24, but I wanted a book for Christmas Day as well. So he did 25 books, and I'm still planning on opening a book a day the whole month of December. I'll try to post those videos to either Instagram or TikTok, so you can follow me on those platforms. And I actually made a little book tree out of it, and so you can see I have my little book tree there. But yeah, I'm still planning on doing that. Even if I do go to Colorado, I'm gonna take those with me, and then I'll do like a compilation video at the end of the month, probably like as a New Year's special. But the what I'm doing on this channel, the regular series and such, are kind of up in the air. So I do hope you will subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on a thing. But yeah, if I'm kind of all over the place on this video, you know why. And if not very animated and such, you know why as well. But let's go ahead and talk about Wyoming Giant. So this is the third book in the Baines clan series, or quartet, and basically you have a father and his three sons. Their mom dies, and they end up having to leave their home because they are basically trying to be forced into the Confederate Army, and they are like, no, we're not doing that. And so they end up killing the people that were trying to force them into the Confederate Army, and then they have to leave and travel around. So the first book is Montana Horseman, and I'm pretty sure that one is about the father, who is Darnell Baines. And I'm going to read this because it has a little section that tells you about the different Baines clans members. So Darnell Baines, as a young man, he'd taken a bullet to win his wife. Now his sons are grown and he's taught them the lessons he's learned in life. Pay your debts, say your prayers, and never forget that being right doesn't matter much if you're slow on the draw. And so it does kind of give you a little backstory in the prologue. And then throughout the book, he references, his brothers and his father and such, and kind of their how he got to where he was, like in the first part of the book. So you kind of get a good idea of the backstory. So even reading the third book in, I still had a good sense of who he was, his role kind of in the family, and like the different personalities and dynamics. So Darnell ends up going to Montana after they travel around. They end up in Montana, and he actually meets a friend, and they become close and start working together. They become partners. And then his one son, um, I think it was Milt or Ward. Never mind, it was Ward. So Ward ends up marrying his dad's partner's daughter, and they end up in California. And so their book actually comes out after this one. It's called California Ingalls, but they're already together and kind of established as a family. So he's the youngest, and his book comes out, but he already has his wife and everything. Like that story is kind of, I'm sure, been kind of intertwined with his father's story. And then the second book is Texas Comebacker, and that is Milt Baines. So it says Milt Baines, proud and quick with a joke, he can move through the woods as fast and quiet as a buzzard's shadow, and he was always ready for a fight. And then Ward Baines, who's the youngest that went to California, says the youngest of the Baines boys, he had to grow up fast. But as Paul once said, he had an advantage because nobody expects the youngest cub to be the most dangerous. And then on Luke's, it's Darnell's firstborn son. Luke didn't talk much if he didn't have to, but when he did, it was worth listening. And that definitely comes into play in the book. Like, he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, like, he makes it count. And so, yeah, you get a really good sense of the characters, like, even the characters that aren't part, because Luke's in New York and then he ends up going to Wyoming. But, he talks about his family, so you kind of get the sense of their personalities and his and how he kind of fits in with all that. So you get a really good sense of the characters, even the ones that aren't part of the main story, like as it's happening, like they're kind of peripheral. You still get a really good sense of them, which I loved. And we have Cotton, who becomes like a brother to Luke. He meets him in New York and they become really close. And then Cotton's sister is Luke's love interest, and the woman he ends up planning on marrying and does marry. um so yeah, I didn't really like Helen though. Honestly, she was kind of like a soft Eastern lady. Um, in the beginning of the book, like she could kind of hold her own. It's set in 1869, so they used to have kind of debates and such, like fake trials. Um, and so you kind of get the sense like there's more to her, there's more depth to her than just a soft English lady, or Eastern lady. And but then when he ends up going to Wyoming, like she just kind of loses face, because her sensibilities, he participates in something and it offends her sensibilities, and she doesn't want to go to Wyoming with him. And then in the end, she ends up coming, a little bit of a spoiler, but I mean, they end up together. So, but she ends up coming to Wyoming, and learns about the trouble that's happening there, and again it offends her sensibilities. So it's like, literally, like, come on. I thought you were better than that. So her character's not a very like strong representation of a woman, even though there is kind of more depth to her than that. But he does meet a woman in Wyoming, not as a romantic interest at all, but she becomes a really good friend. And I really liked her character, and I almost wish she was love interest. But even so, I liked her character, and I do like, where they went and who she ends up with. Um, but yeah, overall, it's just a good, solid book. It's really fast paced, but it's done in such a way like, could he have added more? Yeah. But I like that it was kind of shorter and fast paced. But he did a good job at getting you the information you needed to kind of build the backstory without drawing it out. And then you kind of catch up, and then you're in the main part of the book where he is in Wyoming. But you have a good sense of who he is and who his family is, and then how he got to the point where he's in Wyoming, through the backstory that's told in uh, New York, and some of the characters from New York come into play in Wyoming as well. And so yeah, it all kind of ties together, which I thought was done very nicely. There are some typo things, which, if you saw my review of Conspiracy of Cats, that was one of the reasons why I couldn't fully give it a 5 stars. And that's, to me, is not on the author, because it's the type of typos like, there was one, it was supposed to be her and it was here. And I make those typos all the time if I'm writing something out. So it's understandable, and it's understandable that you won't catch them because you're expecting to see what you think you wrote. And it's easy to skim over those type of typos, but that's on the editor, not the author, in my mind. And so there's some of those in this, and the only reason I probably caught them was because, like in Conspiracy of Cats, I was rereading lines because the dialect was a little bit different than what I was used to, and the phrasing, and so I had to, make sure I understood. Where this one, I was just kind of distracted. I was actually reading it, on Monday after learning about my brother-in-law, so I was distracted, and so I kept rereading to make sure I understood. So I was reading a lot slower than I normally would, and I caught those little typos. Um, but and I would give it probably like a 3 star, because it's a good solid book. I did enjoy it, but there's not a lot of depth there. There's enough that it builds the story nicely, but not enough that it like really wowed me and drew me in. It was good enough that I would be interested in reading the other books if I came across them, but not interesting enough that I would seek out the other books, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, if you like westerns, I think it's a good solid read. I think you would probably enjoy it. Um, and yeah, I just found it pretty enjoyable. So I am going to go ahead and leave you here. I'm sorry if I was a bit rambly and kind of kept losing my train of thought, but I would say it's worth the read, especially if you can check it out from like the library or borrow it from a friend if they have it. Or maybe, if you see it at the thrift store, you can read it, and get it for a good price and then read it. I definitely think it was, worth the read. But I'll leave some links down below where you can pick up a copy. And as far as, like I said, the other videos, just make sure you are subscribed and you do have the bell notification pushed so you don't miss out when I do upload, because it is going to be kind of sporadic for this next month or so. But I'm going to leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye. Nini says bye too.